Hello and welcome, everybody. Today we have my friend Jack, who has Asperger's, and he managed to have 3 girlfriends at a time. So more than me, and I don't have Asperger's. So to all the guys out there who find excuses, can't use it anymore, man. It's like, okay, Jack's a good looking dude, but yeah, he still has, I think he still had to overcome more than you if you don't have Asperger's. So no excuses here. Hi, Jack. Good talking to you.
Oh man, and you. It's good to finally talk to you this way. It's fine. Firstly, had some technical issues. It seemed like we were never going to get around to it, but it's good to actually get here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had to figure out for half an hour how to go on Zoom, but no, we got it. And it's working. So that's the most important thing. Okay, Jack. I want to know, man, how was your life with Asperger's and with women and social wise, and how did you transform it?
Um, when I first started, like when I was like 13, 14, like I had quite a lot of friends. I was very sporty, but like girls were like a bit of a foreign species at the time. Like I didn't like understand. It all just seemed so awkward to me, just speaking and just dating. It just didn't really make sense to me. So if a girl had a crush on me or just like I had no idea what to do, it was just like I didn't know how to go about doing it. I didn't know how to date. Um, and it just was like that for years. I just didn't know how to respond to certain situations. As I said, I was fine with just socializing in general. Yeah, I had my quirks and everything, but um, it certain aspects were just completely foreign to me. I think, particularly at uni as well. I I've had some ridiculous stories down the years where I just had girls were coming on to me and I literally had no idea what was happening, which I could go on for days. I don't think it helps, but just because certain times I was just thinking, I'm not sure if she's trying to be friendly or she actually likes me. And then like a year or two down later, it's like, oh God, how did I miss that? So I'll give one example now. When I was 20, this girl, she was attractive. I was at uni and she was speaking to me for hours during the night. We met at a nightclub. Um, her friend was getting my mate, but so I saw she was a bit flirty with other men, but she was sticking around me for hours, and she was quite flirtatious, all touching me and everything. But I wasn't quite sure what was um what was her game. And then she was like saying, "Oh, you'd make a great boyfriend and all that." And but I still just thought she was being friendly. And then so I had to be on Facebook, everything. And then she was like saying, "Oh, what do you think of my body?" And I was just like, again, I don't want to be inappropriate. I don't want to come across as a creep or anything. So I think that's another thing that I had issue with. I always had difficulty worrying whether I come across as inappropriate, if you get what I mean. Because certain situations just you feel a bit you don't want to get a reputation as being that guy. If you, I think a lot of men have that, particularly now these days. But it's just part of learning, really. It's that's what I'm hoping to kind of help a lot of men with Asperger's. Is just how to pick up on certain aspects of dating and how to tell if one's into you and what to do.
Yeah. It's interesting because like I had the same stuff going on. So I had women when I was around that time, like maybe a bit younger, 18, 19, 20. Like once I had a chick walking up to me and she was American, right? And so like a little black girl, and she came to me, was like, "Hey, you know what I'm thinking about?" And I'm like, uh, is she doing this? I was like, what are you thinking about? She's like, sex. And I'm like, because she just like walked up to me, right? And I was like, what? And then I started making out with her. And but I still didn't move past that, man. I could just take her home like after 5 seconds and have sex with her. But I still wasn't able to push their interaction forward. And like I'm looking back at this and like, what the fuck were you thinking, man? Like, how is that possible? And I have really a lot, like I've never met a woman who's that straightforward with me. But
Mm.
I had some situations where, they were clearly interested in me. They were sitting with me like 2 hours, and I would just need to make a move on them. And I just didn't. Like I was just like sitting there, like talking to them like a friend. And
Mm.
as we all know, like yeah, that's just going to lead nowhere. So interesting. Okay, but at what time did you make the transformation where you said, okay, you have to change something, um, where you are, well, where you just like start working on this stuff?
I'd say good like 3 years ago, I kind of had quite a few dates, but I wasn't kind of really like getting past a few. So I could get dates quite easily, but I just wasn't keeping them was another issue I had. It so I always mostly did it through online dating. That's always been like my thing. Because generally I felt more comfortable just doing it um, through apps because it's time management friendly and you can speak to um, multiple at once instead of just going out and to a nightclub or just downtown and just approaching several women at once. It's a lot easier that way. Uh, and I think it just occurred to me like, how come what do I need to change to really keep girls around um, instead of just doing like casual or just her leaving it after a few dates. It got quite frustrating, particularly as you get older. When you're a bit younger, it's not so bad, but I think a big part of it is just learning from experiences. So I think one thing I've always preached is the importance of um, maximizing everything you do. So not just physical attractiveness, but uh, your communication skills, general confidence, your finances, everything needs to kind of be in order. You've got to put everything as your best foot forward, if that makes sense. And I think
Yeah.
that's where kind of like it's a lot of maturity as well. It all comes down to it. So I think that's what I preach, but try and teach men in my situation. It's not just about looking good, because if you look good but you're a moron, you're not exactly gonna. It's for nothing, if that makes sense. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
yeah.
And I see, I think looks are overrated because like sure it's gonna help you, and especially some women, they really want a good looking guy. So I think priorities are different. Like some women, they're more into character, some are into money, some are into looks,
Mm,
some are into similar interests, hobbies. So there's I've heard everything. Like it really depends on the woman, but usually like looks will help you, communication skills will help you, and all of that.
mm,
But what I find interesting here is like I've talked to many guys, and I think especially for you for starting your business now, the platform that's going to be gold, I would say, is Reddit, because I've talked to many young guys who were on Reddit, and they had Asperger's, right?
Mm.
And yeah, I mean, the problem is they see themselves as victims, so they say, well, yeah, like women aren't to looks, women aren't to money, and I'm poor and I have no social skills because I have autism, and therefore like my genetics just fuck me up and I can never meet love. I will die alone. Like God is cruel and the world hates me. So
Mm.
what do you think? What would you tell somebody like this? Because I can tell you, I know these guys from head to toe because I've spent like hundreds, if not thousands of hours talking to these guys.
Yeah.
And if I would like show them this interview now, they would say, no, but he's good looking, so it doesn't count. But I don't buy this, man. I think even if you're bad looking, like let's say you would be a bit less attractive, because most
Mm.
guys are not ugly, right? Most guys are just like me, average looking. I don't know. I'm not like super good looking. I'm not super ugly. I'm just like something between. And most people probably fall in that category, but I feel like they can still do it. So do you think that your looks are like the only thing that made you successful in dating, or
I
because
think. No, sorry, go on.
no, because you once told me like, okay, yeah, I'm good looking at that, like that helps with online dating, but still if you go on a date and then you're a fucking asshole, like boring, you can't talk to her, then it's not gonna help you, right?
No, no,
So
that's. I mean, like what you were saying earlier about, I think you hit the nail on the head. Really, I think a lot of I used to do that a bit as well. I think you a lot of people with a lot of men with Asperger's, not all, of course, but some of them, they kind of use it to define them. They'll say, "Oh, I've got Asperger's. I can't like get a girlfriend because of it." They kind of like use it as an excuse not to really try. And that's what I'm going to try and tell them not to. It doesn't define you. It's what you do. That's why, and the looks thing as well. Like I was saying before, um, that's why. Yes, maximize your looks, but don't overthink it. Like say, if you're on the black pill, just try to realize it's an important factor, but do what you can, but don't let it like consume everything you think about. So I think just I don't want to repeat myself, but just try to keep improving everything, all areas of your life, just so you can be an attractive all round. And that's what people. If even if you're good looking, but you've got like some victim mentality, like saying, "Oh, I've got Asperger's, I can't have a woman long term," or like no one's gonna, I can't make any friends. People aren't gonna really want to hang around with you.
yeah.
That's just women like potential as well. So if you're actively trying to improve your situation, um, they're kind of drawn to that. Not all, but generally, it's an attractive trait. Like,
But like what I ask myself is, I mean, you seem to be pretty confident and you have social skills. I don't feel like there's a difference than talking to another human being.
hmm.
So is that something you learned with practice, or what's the reason?
um, yes, generally practice of it's kind of as well. You kind of I used to have quite bad social anxiety, but one thing I kind of which has helped is I realise most what people's opinion generally doesn't matter. Like most people, like who are these people to me? If they don't like me, it doesn't really. What my perception of me is most important. So I can kind of, I've got a very diverse friend group. I've got like quite stereotypical London lads as friends. I've got nerdy friends. I've got sporty friends, and I think it's just generally being comfortable with all of them and yourself, and not, yeah, I can, they realise I can be a bit strange at times with things I talk about, like I ask them, well, what do you think of this, like out of nowhere. But I think a lot of them kind of, or I just say, what would you do in this ridiculous situation? And they're just kind of perplexed by it. But I think it's good when they accept it. They just kind of just see it as who you are. So in life, people are either going to accept you or they're not. So I think it's best just to take it as it is, really.
Yeah, what's the real difference? Like if you have Asperger's, you have low levels of empathy, right?
Mm.
That's one thing.
Can be, yeah. And I
And
think
do you think you have low empathy?
I wouldn't say that. I think I I feel bad for I try to empathise with people. I try it, but a lot of like emotions and that are kind of like alien to me. Like with my girlfriend, it's we might talk about like I'll say like one of my friends died recently, and I just said to her, "Oh, my friend died the other day," but I said it so like almost coldly. But I'm sad, but I don't know how to really. Uh, I don't look it, if that makes sense. It just a lot of things are kind of alien to me, and I think men are kind of bad with emotions generally. But I think when you've got Asperger's, it's much worse. It's just it's hard for them to kind of even put it into words even more, if that makes sense. And I think with empathy, I do try to understand where people are coming from and put myself in their shoes, but a lot of the time I kind of see everything from my perspective as well. So I've got to kind of be in them. I've got to. It's good for people if they tell me. I think one thing with my girlfriend is if I do something, but I don't realise it's having an impact on other people, they'll tell me. I think, oh, I'll have to look out for that in future because I don't really take that in, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I can understand because I'm a guy, I have pretty low level of empathy myself. So for example, there's this trait in psychology which was like very popular by Jordan Peterson. So you know agreeableness. So he talks about this stuff, right? Which is
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
big five personality trait. Yeah. So disagreeable people tend to be low in agreeableness, and like I have like 0% agreeableness. So I make very very low level in agreeableness, and that was for me a very early the case. Like in school, I just like I don't give a fuck about the rules. You know, I did like all the things that you shouldn't do, and even these days, you know, I had in the German subway, there's a like they check if you wear masks, yeah. And me at this point, like I'm pretty pissed about these corona measurements because my mom
They're
nearly went.
still doing it in Germany.
Yeah, you have to wear it in the subway. And I just like, I'm pissed about it. My mom nearly went bankrupt because of the lockdowns because she has two closing stores, right? And
Mm.
I just can't hear this shit anymore. Really, I can't. So I'm not doing it. I'm not wearing the masks. And then it's this guy, he's coming and saying like, "Hey, you don't wear a mask." And um, I was like, "Yeah, I forgot it." And I tried to like find a mask from some other one in a train, but I couldn't find anyone. And he was like, no, you have to go out now and you have to pay €6. And I was like, no. So I and he was like, you have to give me your ID card now. And I was like, I'm not going to give you my ID card. And she's like, okay, either you give us the ID card or I will call the police. I was like, okay, go call the police. And I just went out the next stop and I told him like, okay, look, you're not going to touch me, yeah, until the police here. If you touch me, like don't. And he was like, hey, I'm not going to touch you. And then once we went out, I just jumped across the fence and just like went the fuck out. And he and for example, this agreeable test, is they ask you like, do you respect authority? Yeah. And I think about questions like this, and it's like, no, I don't. And then you get very low levels of agreeableness, and usually you also get low levels of empathy, right?
Mm.
And I can see that too. If I walk across like a homeless person, I don't think like, oh, I feel bad for that homeless person. I'm like, okay, this guy's like lazy as fuck. Like, why doesn't he work? And this is usually the mindset of disagreeable people, but they also have low level of empathy.
Mm.
So, but get back to what you said. I think you can have low empathy, but still express your emotions. So, for example, I'm really good at expressing my emotions. I just don't care as much about other people's emotions. I think that's like the difference between being able to express yourself and being like highly empathetic.
Mm.
um yeah. Okay, but so how was that when you were like when you were in school with Asperger's? Did you have like friends, or were you kind of like a outcast guy?
I know I definitely have friends. I think what really helped was I was quite sporty. I was always in the
Mm,
football team, playing rugby. It it's sports is kind of like an equalizer. If you're a bit awkward, but you're good at sports, a lot of people give you a lot of respect, particularly among men.
yeah.
Uh, and so I never had issues making friends. I think
So it was
I
just
just kind of
so it was just a woman kind of thing. So you even had like
yeah,
social circle. Yeah.
yeah. It's always kind of like it was always it was just as I said, it was all a bit of an alien concept. Like a lot of my friends were getting girlfriends early. It was always a bit. Yeah, I never quite understood it. I don't know. I think it's just maturity as well. Um, and it's it's everyone comes into it on their own terms and in their own time. I think it's it doesn't really matter. It's just I think as long as you don't give in to that pressure as well. A lot of people at school kind of feel pressurized if all their friends are getting girlfriends. I never really got that.
You
So
never
I
had the
think
pressure?
no, I mean peer pressure. I've never really bothered with it. That's one thing I've had as well. Peer pressure has never really affected me that much. I just kind of do what I want. Like I just go my own style or go like I love to even then I'd say I'd love to like do things on my own, like travel, go cinema. It's always been much easier for me while others have a much harder time in not all but in certain situations. So I think there are benefits and negatives to it. So
You can. What do you say to a guy who's like, he's because I talked to a guy like that once. So he was short, kind of ugly, so not good looking, but he could have made more out of it. He just like didn't, because probably he didn't know how to do it. Then I think had an advanced form of Asperger's and compulsive uh,
OCD. Then
OCD.
yeah.
Yeah. And I talked to him and he was like, yeah, there's nothing I can do. And well, I think he was probably also bullied in school.
Mm.
Mm, so I'm a big believer that no matter the circumstances, you can master it. I
Yeah.
there's some circumstances that just gonna there's something gonna be impossible. But if it comes to meeting a girlfriend, I have this colleague who works as a dating coach too, and he had a guy who was in a wheelchair, and this guy was approaching women and getting numbers. So I don't know, when I hear talking to these guys, and it's like, sure, man, yeah, it sucks, but you can still make something out of it. But let's say you get somebody like that. Yeah, he comes to you, or you're talking to them, you're reaching out to them, and they're just like, okay, I have OCD, I have advanced Asperger's, I'm short, not good looking, I got bullied in school, self-esteem issues. How would you get him to? to go to being attractive to women?
I'd there's certain things that I couldn't do for him. I'd also suggest he'd go and talk maybe to a therapist as well. If there's certain things I can't advise on him, like he might have some past trauma, like as you said, from a bullying, which is way out of my realm. But I'd also tell him as well, if you go into it, I don't know if you saw that clip. I'll use an example. Did you ever see that clip with Mike Tyson where he's talking about intimidation? And it's quite good because he says a lot of guys lose a fight before it's even started. So if you believe that you've lost before it's happened, you've lost anyway because you've got to still. That's the first part. I'd say to him, there are certain things you can improve. You can improve your finances. You can look better. Sure, you might not be Chad. Everyone's got a ceiling. You got to be honest, but that doesn't mean you can give up. If you go for it and try and maximizing everything, you can. You can improve your lot. If that makes sense. So I
Yeah.
think like that's what I'd advise him. So I'd set him a program and just give him targets for each week. I'd help him with diet, lifestyle, his health, gym. I think nothing's impossible, but I think everyone can improve at least. Any improvement is an improvement, is what I think.
Yeah, what you'll figure out too is, I think, if you talk to some guys like this, the ones who are gonna make it are the ones who want to improve. Because like some people, they don't want to improve. They will just talk to you because they just want to tell you how frustrated they are and how they're victims and things like that. And sometimes you can still help them, but you need to get them out of that victim cycle, and that's not always possible. Like I have some conversations and I just can't. They won't stop victimizing themselves.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing you can do, because if you believe you're a victim, it's done, over.
Yeah.
Like you can't go anywhere. um Especially because, like, why would that be? That wouldn't be a good thing for people around you, because everybody's a victim to some degree. Like nobody grows up with everything being perfect. So, I had child abuse when I was a kid. I got bullied to some degree. I don't have Asperger's, but these things fuck my self-confidence, self-esteem. I had other things that were on my side, but still I can now tell you a lot of things. I can victimize myself for my whole life now. But I don't want to hang out with people too who come to me and be like, no, yeah, you're a victim, I'm a victim, the world. So it's like, obviously people not going to respond to you well if you believe that, because it's just going to make everything worse.
Mm.
And yeah, this victim mentality is very problematic, and I see it more and more, especially on Reddit. So I got off on Reddit. I'm just on Instagram and Facebook now, because in the beginning, I tried to generate clients on Reddit because it's kind of a platform that's kind of new. So for example, Facebook and Instagram, they're flooded with coaches and whatever. Um, but the people there, I don't know, they're more open to this kind of stuff than the people on Reddit. The people on Reddit, they just go there to vent, they're just like, oh, life sucks, I hate everything, whatever. And yeah, I lost so much time on that platform. I feel like, because I've worked on months trying to like hammer my head against the head and like trying getting coaching clients on Reddit. Maybe it will be successful there. I don't know, because a lot of these guys had Asperger's, and they told me like I
Mm.
can't help them because I don't know what it's like. Maybe, yeah, yeah, they can't use
Which
it.
which subreddit was this?
Reddit Virgin, Reddit for
Yeah, I can imagine what that'd be like.
yeah, it's the worst, because there was like an insult sub, and that's kind of like deleted, and now they go to these subreddits like Reddit Virgin, and also Forever Alone Dating.
Yeah,
You know that one?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I'll try to avoid such places, but
Yeah,
it's
it's better probably because they are suicidal and it's gets very dark, if you're around these places.
yeah.
And I've spent like 12 hours a day at time talking to people like this. And man, in the end I was like, it's hard to not get affected by this kind of stuff. You read like 3 to 4 people a day who want to kill themselves. Uh, it's pretty rough. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like I've spoken to a lot of black pillars, for example. You must know, everyone knows black pill now. That's quite almost mainstream. But I think what I would say to them is, okay, a lot of it, like thing with a lot of these places is they do have some truth to them. Like if you're tall, better looking, rich, generally you're gonna have a far easier time dating. But what I will say is, okay, you know these facts, you know how it is. So the real question is, how are you gonna change it? What are you gonna do for your situation? It's a lot of people in denial about this stuff, but if you actually acknowledge it and work towards changing your situation, you can improve it. So I think that's part of the issue for some people. They just, uh, as they say, knowing is half the battle. So I think as long as they, uh, you got to find the solution as well to the issue. If that makes sense.
True, yeah. Oh, but the problem I see, especially with these guys on Reddit, especially like the nerdy guys, they're in their 20s, right? They're like socially excluded, like classical incel dudes. They go to these places, man, and I just hear this constant like negativity, suicidal people. Yeah, and it's not doing them any good. So it would be a good place if you can go there and just share your frustration. People like go and pick it up, and to some degree that's happening. So that's a positive kind of these kind of places. But like generally, I would say it's more negative to them than positive because they just feed up on their depression and are like, no, yeah, you're right, everything is shit.
I'd um I'd advise them to firstly work on their physical appearance. I think that's the first, my general go-to, to start getting your diet in order, start looking at stuff like sleeping better, um, skincare routine, because when you start looking better, everything just becomes much easier. But in fact, the very first thing I'd say, don't use your Asperger's as an excuse to say to yourself, yeah, I can't do this because I've got Asperger's, therefore no girl will like me. Um, Firstly, get rid of that and then get into uh, maximizing your physical appearance and work on your general people skills and try to, again, not let these negative views um, uh, limit you, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
Hmm.
Mm. And so, do you know these numbers because like they're so popular these days? Like, oh, the top 20% get all the women. Like the top 20, that top 20, or maybe like I think I heard Jordan Peterson said top 5% get all the women. You
Well, it
know,
seems to leap from like 20 or 15% or 10%. Now he's saying 5%. It's what's he going to be soon? It's just, look, I think, yeah, generally some men generally do much better overall. That's you can't really dispute that. But instead of just looking at these men with envy, you could look at yourself, okay, how am I going to get myself into these top whatever percent? How do I get into it? Instead of just looking at them and living vicariously through them, it's like it was a few years ago. It was Dan Bilzerian. All these men were just following on Instagram and Facebook.
The best. He's like married for 2 months, and he said like, "Nah, I'm gonna go back on my yacht with like 20 playmates."
Yeah,
he will never grow up, man.
no, but he's had all sorts of controversies recently. If you look up, he's been sued, I think. And he's
What?
bankrupt now.
It's bankrupt.
I don't quote me on that, but he had some controversies, and it might be worth looking into because his dad had he went to prison in the 80s. So I don't know the full story on that, so I don't want to like say what has happened, but also another guy, I don't know if I can say his name because this will go on YouTube, but I would say his initials AT. He's another one a lot of men like to live through.
It's like Harry Potter, the one whose name is
I don't know because he's been banned from pretty
Andrew
much.
Tate. You're the
Yeah,
new Lord Voldemort, man. You're the
I
evil
know,
that nobody
I
wants
know,
to
but
talk about. Oh man, that's a good one. Yeah, okay. What about Andrew Tate? Tell me.
well, I think a lot of Caleb Jones went into this as well. A lot of men will look at them and be like, "Oh, they'll try and live vicariously through them," and see them as the top men and making all this money and dating all these attractive women. But these guys aren't doing anything to improve their own situation. So I think to take some of their advice on board, don't listen to everything everyone says, but
Definitely don't listen to everything Andrew Tate says.
no, definitely not. I mean, yeah, some like with anything, people have good and bad advice, but I as well, I think a lot of these guys just blame women for everything they don't, which is what I don't like about the manosphere. Really, it's kind of a lot of it's just so negative about women, and just
It's getting
you
worse.
got to think.
It's getting worse and worse. You know, I get these YouTube shorts now all the time where they like have like women who are humiliated or even beaten, and then they celebrate. It's like a Sigma males. It's like, oh, a Sigma male, like you don't give a fuck about women, and then they celebrate it when they get like beaten up or something. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you guys? It's so based on hate and resentment. Unbelievably toxic, this manosphere to some degree these days. Very sad
It
because it
is, and yeah,
could be
yeah,
so.
gone.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, I didn't mean to cut in. Gone.
No, I finished my point. Let's go.
Okay. Yeah, it's. I was having a conversation the other day. A lot of it's ironic, really, because a lot of them started off with these complaining about feminists and saying, "Oh, look how bitter they are about men." And all this a good few years ago. Now they seem to be like the male version of the
Feminist.
people they were supposedly complaining about all those years ago. It's just quite ironic that they seem to be like two sides of the same coin. But
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
agree. Okay, man, I'm running low on battery, but it was very interesting talking to you. And for my audience, if you struggle with Asperger's, go check out Jack's channel. It's gonna be linked in the description anyhow. Advanced Asperger's Lifestyle. Check out his website. Some good stuff on there, coaching, consultation options, all of that. So if you struggle with that, I think Jack is gonna be able to help you there. Good talking to you,
Thank
Jack.
you. And you, it's really good to speak to you. Thank you for having me on.